We are. Kim, thank you ever so much for joining me. Thank you so much for giving up some of your time. Um,
Thank you for having
yeah, that's great. So the world is sort of we're slowly getting back to things, but we've been dealing with this pandemic that started a couple months ago. Um, how have you been keeping up? How have you been affected? Has it affected work and personally? How have you been?
um under the circumstances I've been good. I always just try and count my blessings. That is always important to me. Like, I have a roof over my head, my family is healthy, I've got food to eat. It's always the little things, that just help you get through the tough times. So this is something none of us could have like foresee in the future happening, and especially like starting at the beginning of the year, like you have all these expectations and things that you want to accomplish,
Yeah.
and think that things that you wish should happen for you and for your family, and this is obviously not on any one of our radars. So yeah, it's in terms of work, it's been quite hectic, especially for a freelancer. We are currently doing virtual castings, doing a lot of self-tape, so we're not going into the casting studios. um, and obviously work has become a lot less because of the international travel ban. People are not really moving
Yeah.
in and out, so in terms of international clients, we're not really seeing that. So the work it's become a bit less.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, and you, I mean, you mentioned freelancing, but I mean, of course, at the moment you're doing binnenlanders. You know, just for interest's sake, I mean, do you sort of sign a contract for a certain amount of time, or how does the whole thing work?
Well, at the moment, I'm not doing Binnenlanders. I finished Binnenlanders about a year ago, but obviously we shoot so ahead of time. People are
Oh
still
my, oh my gosh, I'm behind. Do forgive my
so
ignorance.
no, don't worry. My mother is also watching the one that's showing at the moment. So there's a lot of people that still think that I'm in Johannesburg and I'm shooting in Joburg, but I finished last year. I
Oh
finished
wow.
Binnenlanders. And yeah, I mean, I signed a year contract and then it was renewed. And then because of personal reasons, I came back because of the fact that my husband was in Cape Town and I was staying in Johannesburg. So we basically had to commute up and down.
Ah,
And it was a bit stressful because my husband's work is in Cape Town. I'm not going to expect
yeah,
him to move up to Johannesburg for
yeah,
me because that is my thing, that's what I want to do. So it was a bit of like too much pressure, and things happening with my health. So I was just like, okay, you know what? I think the best for me is, and for my family, is for me to come back home. And it was a very difficult decision because I loved being on Binnenlanders. It was such a treat. I had so
yeah.
much fun going in every single day. I loved going into studio and having my colleagues. They became my family. So yeah, I miss that.
Yeah. So yeah. So you're originally from Cape Town. You were born there. Did you
I
grow up in Cape Town? Yeah.
There's a little town outside of Cape Town. So I'm actually a country girl. So
Okay.
if you go along the west coast, you will find all these like we call it little door piece.
Yeah.
Like
Gold
there's
Fish. Yeah.
there's Atlantis, there's Marie, there's Darling. So if you go onto the R27 and you take a trip down West Coast, you are bound to drive past like a road that goes to Atlantis and to Mamre, and that's basically where I grew up. I'm from Mamre. I grew up in Atlantis, also went to school in Atlantis, and I go there often because my mother, my family is still there. So my mother and my brother, they are still staying that side. My aunts, my uncles,
Lovely.
my cousins.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm a proud country girl, and yeah, born and bred.
Yeah. Lovely. And I mean, of course, most people know you as an actress, but you also dance. Um. w-
I used to. The thing is, I started out as a dancer. So
Yeah,
a lot of the people that if they see me, because like I like to fool around now if
yeah,
I'm in my living room.
yeah.
I started at dancing when I was 5 years old. I started with ballet and I did some gigs doing sports events and corporate events, and that's how I started and put my foot in the industry. Was when I did these shows, and everything just took off from there. I mean, I studied drama. I
Hmm.
always knew that I wanted to become an actress. So I think that dance, because dance is still a form of performing, and a form of arts that I wanted to delve into. So I knew that I always wanted to be, like, from the age of 10, I knew that I wanted to be an actress. And
Yeah,
I'm just like, okay, let's use dance, let's do physical theater, let's see how far this goes. And somehow dancing helped me to, like, step into my acting, and just take on that character and tell a story, because
yeah.
ultimately with art, that's what I always try to do, is to tell a
Absolutely, yeah.
story. With whether it's with music or with your body, with your dancing, or with words.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with that. I mean, as a musician, this is also what we do, and doing this kind of thing, it's sharing stories, and something that I'm,
Yes.
passionate about. So I completely get that. So obviously it was always clear to you that you wanted to be an actress. So you then, after school, went on to study drama. Was that at Stellenbosch, or did you go to in Cape Town?
I went to a college in Cape Town called City Varsity.
Uh-huh.
So I was there for like 2 years. I did my diploma in professional acting.
Yeah.
It was amazing. I traveled in and out, took the bus every single day from Mamre to go
Yeah.
all the way to Cape Town, to study, and just to try and fulfill a lifelong dream of mine, to whether it be on stage or be like in front of the camera. So yeah, that was
Yeah.
many moons ago.
Yeah, lovely. Yeah. So you then, dancing was your way in, and then with acting, what was your sort of first thing, you know, that you sort of came into the industry with, or that sort of your debut? What was that first project that you did?
All of this actually started when I was like 9 years old or something, when I was doing my ballet, and I did an audition for a, a play called The Nutcracker.
Uh-huh.
It was like a ballet show, and yeah, I was 9 years old or something when I did that, and being in front of so many people, because at the time it was so called Nikomalan at the Artscape,
Yeah, yeah.
like that's how long ago it was.
Wow.
And afterwards I started doing, like, I joined an agency, I think at the age of like 13 or 14, and I started doing commercials and doing extra work,
Yeah.
just to see and to feel what it's like being on set.
Yeah.
And I was lucky that I was blessed that my mother was always very supportive, if I needed to go and do my thing. Obviously schoolwork is important, but she knew what my end goal was, she knew what I wanted
Yeah.
to do.
Yeah.
um, and so it basically just it took off from there. You network, you speak to
Yeah.
people,
Yeah.
and
Absolutely.
like, okay, the next step always leads to the following. I think the biggest role that,
Hmm.
oh, like what I started out with when I joined my professional actors agent was, when I did a Universal Studios movie called Death Race 3.
Yeah.
And I worked alongside Danny Trejo, who is, he's a
Yeah.
Latin American
Yeah.
actor,
Yeah.
and
Yeah. Yeah.
that, and I think that was like one of my first jobs, like after varsity. And I was like, how does this even happen? So, like,
Amazing.
and
Yeah.
it is because my dream is always, like, for me it's important to tell South African stories, and if I'm able to do an international thing just because it just happens, and then you're like, oh, thank God, like, this is so cool, and I had so much fun.
Yeah, no, I can imagine. That's really cool. You mentioned your mother, but at the moment we're celebrating Women's Month. Who are some of the women, in your life that inspire you, who motivate you? Uh,
Wow, like quite a few.
yeah,
So my mother has always like instilled this whole thing of like having good friends, having good people that you surround yourself with, like-minded individuals, people that are goal driven, but at the same time, people that will always encourage you. But obviously, you need to do the same. It's a two-way street when it comes to friendship.
yeah,
And she had these women in her life, and they're still there because it's my mother's always like saying, it's important to have like lifelong friendships that you can build on.
yeah,
And she, you know being in the company of her friends, how, and I see how they've been there for each other, through tough times. And
yeah,
even though they have their own family, like we would become part of the family, like they would be like my other mothers. I had my mother's one friend that if I had a casting or so, she would always drive me like up and down. I like so many of my mother's friends have
yeah,
done that for her, like when she's not able to, because I mean, I was raised by a single mother myself and my brother, and she was also working. She was working full time. She was a teacher, and it was difficult. So she had to lean on the strength of her friends, and her
yeah,
friends would be helping us, and those were the type of women that, it's strong women. It's women that were like, they're not just mothers, but they are also these like fierce women that sacrifice so much,
yeah,
and they are so selfless, not just for their kids but for their friends' kids, and for the community. And because I mean, I'm from Mamre, we're a very close-knit community,
yeah,
so we always try to help where we can. And the females that I've had in my life, like even my friends, my own friends, like I've I've got amazing friends who they have like really pushed me and challenged me at times. Sometimes I'm like, oh my gosh, life gets too much, and they would be, Kim, we are here, like you don't have to do this by yourself, like. But there's not that competition of like I'm better than you. It's we are
yeah,
here to help each other, because
yeah,
you always find it's like this slight competition. And we always like, if women should come together, like we can rule the world. Amazing things can happen when women come together with a common goal. We've all got our own sights and goals and things that we want for our lives, but when there's a like just a common focus of like what we want to achieve, amazing things can happen. And I've been fortunate to have women like that in my life.
yeah. No, amazing. Yeah, and of course, you are an inspiration to, I'm sure, a lot of women, uh, men as
I
well.
hope so.
Yeah. What kind of advice or words of motivation do you have for young girls, who are sort of starting off in their life, with all the challenges and fears and insecurities that come with being at that stage in your life? What are some of the words that you would give them?
I, now, the older I become, I'm like, I don't want to take myself too serious.
Yeah,
I find that if I look back on my life, I took things way too serious. Like everything was about being emotional and being like heavily attached to things. But now, and funny enough, this is something my husband taught me. Like he is the total opposite, whereas I'm always strung out on things. Things need, like they need to be done. They need to be like this. And he's just like, if something happens, it happens. There's nothing you can do about it. There's
yeah,
certain things that are
yeah,
completely out of your control. So I think for women, try not to take life too seriously. Like that is the advice I would give my younger self.
yeah,
To continue to work hard, and not to compare yourself to others.
Mm-hmm.
That is what we do. I think in the age of social media also, we go on people's pages and we're like, oh my gosh, she looks so perfect, she looks
Yeah.
amazing, what am I doing wrong? Like, why can't I look like that? But you need to just sit back and think, like, I am so unique. There are so many things that I can offer that that girl probably can't, but we shouldn't. It's such a dangerous place, like, to tread on, like, if you compare yourself to others, we
Yeah.
just,
Yeah.
their lifestyle, like body type. The older I get, the more I'm like more accepting of who I am and
Yeah.
what I bring to the table, because I know exactly what I bring to the table and I'm confident about that.
Yeah.
So, one, don't take yourself too serious.
Mm-hmm.
Two, obviously grind, hustle, work hard.
Yeah.
And three, be yourself. Do not compare yourself to others. You are unique. God made you unique. There is absolutely no one that looks like you, that can do what you do. You have got a special gift that you need to give and show the world. And we should use our gifts, what we have. We shouldn't be selfish. It's about just giving it to the bigger picture, giving it to people and telling your own story, because your own story is special and people want to hear your own story.
Yeah. Fab. Yeah. No, I completely agree. With the social media thing and whatever, but for me, what has been quite exciting recently, in terms of how we view ourselves, you mentioned body types and types of hair and all of this stuff, but there's been a real sort of surge, of acceptance and people embracing, because we used to have these standards, to have the straightest hair possible, the fairest skin, to be the
Yes.
skinniest. Yeah. So, but what has been really exciting for me is the fact that the culture is changing, and people are starting not only to accept it but to be proud, about having curly hair and being in your skin, and yeah. So that's been really exciting for me, which sort of leads me on to something that I want to ask. It's just sort of the other things that have been going on in the world. Slightly less exciting. The first sort of thing that happened a couple of months ago when this black man in America got murdered, George Floyd, and it sort of re-sparked the whole Black Lives Matter movement. Also, I mean, we're celebrating Women's Month this month in South Africa, but but it's been slightly tainted, by what's been going on, with the violence and the attacks and murders of women in South Africa, all over the world. What are your feelings about all of this stuff, and how do we go about this?
For me, it's sometimes a very difficult subject to talk about, but we need to embrace that uncomfortability. Unfortunately, there's still a struggle. I find when I'm on social media, there's still a struggle for people to understand what the Black Lives Matter movement is about.
Yeah.
And it's so frustrating for me as a human being and as a person of color. It's so frustrating that people still don't get what Black Lives Matter is about.
Yeah.
But it's, so Black people should be valued more than the rest, and it's just like, no, it's just about equality.
Exactly.
For them to have experienced years of systematic racism, and they are still experiencing it. We are still experiencing it, and we need to come together for once, and agree, on just a common focus and be like this. If we can come together and just be like, and we have in certain ways we have, but I suppose you can't always get everyone on board, because you're always like, if one person disagrees with you, I tend to get very frustrated, because I'm like, how do you not get it? How
Yeah.
like, trying to educate also, but sometimes that is also not enough. Where GBV is concerned, it's scary because it's very close to home and because it's in our backyard. You know, it's
Yeah,
here, it's happening in South Africa. My issue with it is that something happens and there's like almost this trend on social media, and then everyone jumps on the bandwagon, and then eventually it just slivers off and something
yeah,
else comes along and then we tackle that issue. But this is something that we constantly need to battle with and to face, and we need to be like, because as a woman, for me, there are certain things that I have to do in my life, even though we want to try and, you know, derail and be like, listen, you need to educate your sons on how to treat women. You need to educate.
yeah,
It's not always that a woman has to come and she has to be like, okay, I need to wear a certain dress. I need to, because even for me as a woman, I'm like, if I'm not with my husband, I'm not going to wear sexy clothes because I'm
right.
scared.
Yeah,
I'm try and be a little bit more modest when I go up. So if I'm with my husband, I will feel way more comfortable if I want to wear something sexy, you know, because we don't trust who
yeah,
is like lurking around the corner, who is following me. Um, it's something that we as women we deal with constantly, and it's an uncomfortable subject, but we need to embrace that uncomfortability. That's I feel we should, and it's still difficult for a lot of women to also talk about it because it hits home, you know, and
yeah,
we don't necessarily share that type of information on social media. But when we come together and we sit and we like, you know, we need the help of our men also. You know, we do, in order for us to coexist.
yeah,
We need men, and
yeah,
we need to educate our sons on what it is they need to, how they need to respect and treat women. For me, that is very important for us as women to feel safe. Unfortunately, our country, um, you know, the people in charge are not doing as much as we would want them to, for us as women to feel safe. Yeah, it's a very touchy subject, but we need to talk about it.
yeah. No, I absolutely agree. I mean, um, for years, first of all, with the BLM thing, as a man of color who's lived in South Africa, who's lived in the UK for some years, and all the experiences that I had, for years, you never felt like you had a voice when it came to stuff like this. And in fact, you felt like you were, you know, complaining or playing the race card, as they say, and all of this stuff. But what I've loved again, about recently is that there's this platform that is sort of arose, if you see what I mean. And people are starting to have a voice, and I feel very passionate about, and to have honest and direct conversation about stuff. And I mean, it's like I tell
Oh,
my,
yes.
yeah, I mean, it's like I tell my white friends and colleagues, it's exactly like you alluded to earlier. It's not that we want to have our stage and scream from it kind of thing. It's actually because we want to engage you in the conversation. It's actually because
Absolutely.
we want you to be part of it, and you are part of the change. That's the whole point of all of this. We want to include you. Yeah, and with
Yes, that's the thing.
yeah,
We want people to be part of it. We want to include everyone. This is not a thing where people of color want to do this by themselves. You know, this is for everyone to engage with that conversation and be like, listen, these are the type of changes that need to happen. And I am so grateful that there are people, they are like our white friends, they are coming to the party. They are like, these are the type of changes that we need to make. These are the type of changes that we are making.
yeah,
And let's talk about this. Let's not, if I have something that I'm uncomfortable with,
Mm.
don't bash me for saying these type of things, because that is my journey and that is where I come from, and we need to hear each other out,
Yeah.
because we tend to interpret things completely different. You can interpret what I'm saying different to the next person, and
Yeah.
we need to really sit down and be able to educate ourselves and sit and listen. We need to listen. We don't do that because everyone want to put the 5 cents of a thing in, but what we need to do is listen and take it all in. Don't just, this is another movement happening, oh my goodness. Listen to and hear what it's actually about, for your neighbor, for your friend, for your family member, for your children who has to go out there and
Yeah.
grow up in this world. So that is what we have to do. We need to start listening more and be empathetic. Sit
Yeah.
down and be empathetic to somebody else's cause and what they are going through.
No, absolutely agree about empathy and compassion. I mean, there was this great video. It's still online, I think. Poet, I forget her name now. But, she talks about this thing about people being obsessed about being woke. But in the process, sort of locking out any possibility of conversation and um,
Exactly.
yeah, yeah, and how to sort of invite the conversation to make people feel safe enough, to express themselves, and yeah, and
Yes.
yeah. So I mean, but I think we're making progress. I mean, and for instance, I mean, with the GBV stuff and just sexism and all of this stuff, you mentioned the thing about learning and educating and whatever, and I do absolutely agree that as men, it's about time we listen and join the conversation, and yeah, and I'm
It
all
starts
for
at
that.
home. It
Pardon?
starts at home. It
Yeah,
starts at home.
yeah, yeah,
For me, it's also important for my husband to engage in these things, and I need to also know like where he's coming from. He needs to sit down and be like, what will make me feel comfortable, what would make me feel more safe.
yeah,
So the other thing where you first have to start at home and educate the men at home and be like, these are our concerns. And obviously, if you speak to any man or any husband or any brother, they are naturally very overprotective of the members, the women members in their family.
yeah,
I know that I've got cousins, I've got like my brother, they are so overprotective. And I remember as a teenager, like growing up, my younger cousin, like if we should go out somewhere, go out dancing, we wouldn't go out without him. We
yeah,
would never go out without a man. Like, yes, you want to do ladies' night at times, but sometimes you just feel like you want to have a male
exactly.
chaperone just to go with you and protect you,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
I had that. I'm so fortunate that I had that, and even today still, they still defend my honor, when things are happening on social media, because you get trolls and people that can sometimes say nasty things to you.
yeah,
I always have my cousins jumping on the bandwagon and being like, no, 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 this is not on. They always want to protect.
yeah,
And
yeah.
I've been fortunate that I've had men in my life that have come to the party and have been like, they want to engage and they want to listen. But it's that instinct also of a man to want to protect the woman in his family. So
Yeah.
yeah, I'm grateful that I have that.
Yeah. No, I mean just last night I was speaking to a cousin of mine, and she mentioned the ladies' night thing, and I mean it's crazy that you can't, that women can't just decide, hey guys, let's meet on Thursday for a couple drinks. It's crazy because I mean, for instance, for me, that's not something that I consider in my life. When I want to go out, I go out. Um, yeah, so
Oh
it's
yes.
yeah, so it's, yeah, I mean, it says something, but, something needs to be done about that.
Yes, because even with my girlfriends, like if we go out, we always go out during the day. Like if
Yeah,
we have a get together, we will have either get together at somebody's house. Like we consciously make this decision, or sometimes not even conscious. Like it's just like there. It's like I'm not gonna drive at night. I'm not gonna feel like safe
yeah,
driving by myself, because some of us, like, we stay far away from each other. But if we do a night thing, then we would always include our husbands or our partners, because
yeah,
we would feel safer. But during the day, that's a given. That's what we're going to do. Like if we're going to have a ladies' day, or
yeah,
you know.
yeah,
But at night, we never travel alone. We like, oh no, our husbands need to come. If we're going to do something at night, then our husbands have to come with us, because
yeah,
then we feel safer.
yeah. You also alluded to, people, being trolls and all of this stuff, as someone who, obviously is, in the public eye, and you have a, platform, of course, so, people are gonna assume some sort of, ownership, of your life, and how do you deal with that? How do you balance that?
My husband, he always tells me that I have to let it go. But like I said earlier, I'm I'm very much I'm a very emotional person, and I attach myself to certain things, and I'm passionate about certain stuff. And
Yeah,
for me, it's the same with my followers. If I'm gonna put something out there, I want to be able to, whether it's to entertain them, or to start some type of conversation, or just put something out there, like for myself even. And I've been fortunate that I've had people that are, following me, that have always been supportive, and that have always, there's always positivity. And I love that, because I try to
yeah,
exude as much positivity as
yeah,
as possible. Um, and when the negative comes, it needs to be something that sparks a conversation for the greater good.
yeah,
But
yeah,
obviously, there are still certain people that, um, I've had people that, that would imply some, like racist things, and that would say very degrading things to me, and I've exposed it once, because I don't tolerate that. I've been advised at times to let it go. But in the time that we are living in at the moment, like,
yeah,
I don't feel that we should turn the other cheek anymore. I don't feel like we should turn a blind eye. Like, we need
yeah,
to approach it. We need to face it head on. And I'm the type of person that I confront. I want
yeah,
to confront the situation.
yeah,
This big elephant in the room needs to be tackled. We can't just every time be like, okay, no, we'll talk about it. It will blow over. I'm over that. I'm over that type
yeah,
of thing. We need to face it head on. So if somebody is being very negative towards me personally, I don't mind if you're going to attack my characters that I play,
yeah, yeah,
on television. Fine, you can, because my stuff is out there. My art is
yeah,
there for you, if you like it or not. That's on you. It's okay. Like, I'm okay with some critique also. But when you attack me personally, and when you start attacking my family, then I'm gonna have a huge problem
yeah,
with that, because you don't know me, you don't know where I'm from. And that's what my husband always says, these people that don't know you, so why do you still give them a part of you? And I'm like, no, but we have to talk about this. We need to approach
yeah,
it. We can't just let it blow over. And I mean, so far the positive has been way more than the
yeah,
negative.
yeah, yeah.
And I also pick my battles. That's
Oh
important for
yeah,
me, to just
yeah,
pick my battles, because I need to also, as a human being and as a woman, I need to be sane. I need to feel comfortable. I need to have the energy to approach these type of things. So if that doesn't happen, then I'm like, okay, I'm gonna let it go for now. But maybe tomorrow I will go back and I'll be like, okay, I'm ready for you.
yeah,
What's available?
yeah, yeah. Yeah, no, I completely agree. I mean, it's like, I remember, when I was coming up, studying and, doing competitions, and of course, people, always have stuff to say. And I remember my mentor, saying that it's choosing your battles, as you say, because, sometimes people do need to be called out, as he says, you have to biff the shark on the nose sometimes. And other times, but other times, it's not worth your time. It's not worth your energy. I think as we go along, we understand that what people say about other people or things says more about them, than it does, the other thing or person. So, it's their battle that they're fighting, if you see what I mean. Yeah. And then next 5, 10 years, where do you want to see yourself?
I just want to be content. I live a fairly easygoing life. For me, I just want the simple things, and I just want my family to be happy. I want them to be healthy. I tend not to plan too much ahead because I know, and I'm living proof of, life and change and switch. Like, even with everything that we've been going through as a human race,
Yeah.
we know that we shouldn't be making plans, because look at
Yeah.
how quickly our lives are upside down within a matter of weeks. So I try not to put too much emphasis on planning ahead. And what is that saying? If you want to make God laugh, you should make plans, or something like that.
Yeah.
So I want to just be happy. I want to be with, my husband, and I start a family, hopefully. And because family is, for me, is very, very important.
Oh, yeah.
And both of us, we come from big families, and we want to expand that.
Yeah.
I
Nice.
love to just be with my friends and my family. They are so important to me, and I always just pray that they are healthy and that they are happy. And obviously also, hopefully, there will be some progress in our society where GBV is concerned, where Black Lives Matter is concerned, that we will just become better people, and that we would be kinder to one another. Because we forget that so many people go through things. And I think now, with what's been happening with COVID, that we tend to be a bit more patient with each other, or sometimes not, because you don't know what somebody's going through at home. But I find that when I go to the shop, everyone seems kinder. They they let you pass first. They smile underneath that mask. You can see it in their eyes.
Yeah.
And that, for me, is beautiful. We are making progress, you know. And I hope that the new generation of parents are, like, instilling that in their kids. And
Yeah.
that is what I would want to do for my kids also, is to instill that sense of, um, there are people out there, and just to be able to contribute positively to society. We need that. We need better human beings. We need better human beings.
Yeah.
And I think we should just start with ourselves.
Oh, yeah.
So 5 to 10 years, hopefully, we'll have that conversation in 5 to 10 years.
Yeah, no, I
Thank you.
no, I absolutely agree. And I think, so many of the people that I've been speaking to, my friends and people like yourself, voice this thing that, of course, this period has been very challenging for obvious reasons. But it's also sort of brought us back, in some ways. Sort of the noise has stopped, and it's really sort of forced
Oh, yeah.
us, yeah, sort of forced us to really think about, again, what is important to us. And it is this thing of just humanity. We've realized again that this is what matters. we get so distracted so much of the time by, these just things, and just to be brought back against this thing.
And that necessary thing, we, I think in the lockdown, especially that the 3 weeks that we were like on full lockdown on level 5, it really was a time when you were like, I find that a lot of my friends are like, they want to get back to work. They so much want to get back to work. And it's like, wow, for so long you've complained about like, I need a break. I don't want to work. I want to do something more. And now it's like, you're like, oh my gosh, I appreciate what I have. I appreciate my job. I appreciate this. And just the little things, the stillness of just being, all of these other unnecessary things just fizzes out because it just doesn't matter, because everything is, in Afrikaans, I love the saying, in Afrikaans the saying called, alles is net 'n gejaag na wind.
Yeah.
And that is what I've experienced with just life growing up, that we just have to let all the other nonsense go and just focus on what's really important.
Yeah.
And at the core of just being a human, being a woman, being a child, of being a son, and those are the type of things that are important. And just holding your fellow man's hand, where you can, because there's a bigger picture that we tend sometimes not to see. And I think I put things in perspective for me also about what really matters, and that you are not alone. We sometimes tend to think that we are alone, but we are not, because we all experience different kinds of emotions, but we are experiencing it. We are all experiencing it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, it's so fun. I mean, this, series of interviews that I'm doing, this is something that I've thought about for years. But of course, you push it to the side. You make every excuse in the book not to do it, and ironically, this sort of period made that possible. But the reason why it was so important to me to do this, is to share stories, and because I mean, I remember, periods in my life when I felt so lonely. I felt so, isolated with some of the things that I was going through, just because nobody else was voicing, this stuff, and of course, then you realize, everybody goes through stuff, and it makes such a big impact when you realize, as you say, you're not alone,
Yes.
yeah, that there's a whole world around you, and actually that our most natural impulse is to help each other, and that's, the point of doing stuff like this.
And we shouldn't be scared to help one another, and I've got people in my life that I've always, at times I'm like, oh, can you just leave me alone? But they're like, no, just know that we are here. Don't forget that we are here. And that especially, those are the type of things that you treasure when you have people like that by your side.
Yeah, amazing. Kim, we can go on for hours talking. It's great talking to you, but just just the last thing. I mean, something that I ask everybody I speak to. I suppose you've already kind of answered that, but there's this beautiful quote by Horace Mann that says, "Be ashamed to die until you've scored a victory for humankind." What is that victory for you? What is that contribution that you want to have made to life by the time you go?
Wow. I love my community. I love my hometown, and my mother has been the most amazing example of what that is, of being, a member of the community. And it literally is to have a lasting legacy that my community can be proud, for me to be able to do more. We tend to say it all the time, but my mother and I, we have a preschool that we opened, and I just want to see that grow, with the base of it being in Mamre, you know, Mamre being the start, the oasis of it, and I want that to be able to grow my community, whether it's with children development, or you know, increase employment, or just something would, you know, something that they can be proud of, and where they can say, you know, that is also, that's our child, you know, she did that for us. And that for me is important. Everything else doesn't matter, you know. Not like, I love what I do for a living, I love what I do, but that is not the bigger picture. I am using my platform where I can to make them, you know, for me, it's to make my community proud. It's always been to make my family proud, and to help those that need to come after me, because there are young kids with so much talent, you know, in my community, in Mamre, in Atlantis, and I want to be able to take them and be like, you can do this. If I can do it, you can do it.
Yeah.
You go out there, make your community proud, but you know, bring it back, because the people in the community that, you know. So that for me, when everything else, it doesn't matter, my family, my community, that for me is my bigger picture.
Yeah. Lovely. Yeah. Look, Kim, I've really loved speaking to you. It's been great. Thank you so much.
I have liked speaking to you and answering your questions. You are amazing. I love this. It was so calm. This felt like such a cool conversation, just about talking, and yeah, it was amazing. Thank you so much.
No, thank you ever so much for giving up some of your time. And I might be in Cape Town soon for some reason, and then we, you know, can chat some more. And you know, thank you again. And
that would be amazing.
Yeah, no, good luck with all of your projects. And you know, we'll be in touch. You know, the world is ever so more connected these days anyway. So, but thank you so much for
you're so welcome.